Thank you very much. I have to say that I'm incredibly inspired to be here with people who get it, people who understand that this world is what we make it, and that it takes all of us working together to do our part to make this world a better place. So I am incredibly inspired and humbled by your presence here today. I am a storyteller. I have spent my entire adult life in the theater, in television studios and film studios, and definitely telling stories is what I do. But as I knew I was coming to speak here today, I did think about the fact that before I did work in the entertainment industry full time, at a time when I dreamed of working in the entertainment industry full time and seeing my name come upon the credits, I spent years in the inner city of Los Angeles teaching high school. I taught theater and I taught film, and I can remember looking for volunteers and going and trying to get people to understand the plight of the young people that I taught. They became my heroes because I was so inspired by their spirit, their strength, how wonderful they were. But I was also struck by the fact that America did not know them. When I would see stories or watch the news or read newspaper headlines about the test scores at the schools in our neighborhood, I was always saddened by the fact that America did not know these young people who came into this school every day, their pants sagging, some of them with bad attitudes and cussing and fussing and all of that. But every day when I was in their classroom, I began to understand them more and more, and I will never forget one of many stories that I have. There was a young man named Devon who I was collecting homework one day, and he came and gave me his homework assignment, and I gave it back to him. And I said, nope, not accepting that. And he got really, really upset. And I just continued getting everybody's homework. And then he said, why are you always messing with me? But he didn't use the word messing. He used another word. But the only reason I would have even put up with that from him only is because that was one student who had a code by his name. He was in special education, and the code meant severely emotionally disturbed. And whenever you as a teacher saw that code beside a student's name, usually they got that code because they were a behavior problem for year after year after year. And somehow, somewhere, somebody would give them the code severely emotionally disturbed. And this day he said, why are you always messing with me? And I looked at him and said, because I love you, and I'm not taking anything from you that's not done in excellence. So here you go. And I continued to collect the homework. And a few seconds later, the young lady sitting beside me said, Mr. Swinton, look. And I looked up, and he was crying. And I said, what's wrong with you? He said, man, nobody's ever said that to me my whole life. And all of a sudden, the biggest change happened in this kid. I could not imagine going through 16 years of your life and never hearing those words. I soon got to understand that he used to dream, he used to watch TV and thought about what it would be like to hear those words. He was in foster care. He didn't have two parents that were assigned to him. And every time he got one of them angry, they would say, we don't want him no more. And they would send him back to the main office, and he would go to another family until they got tired of him. But that's when I began to realize that people do not understand what these young people go through. And I also began to understand, because I have to admit something that I don't think most teachers would want to admit, but some kids I just didn't like. And he was one of them. But I began to understand that it's the kid who is hardest to love that most needed our love. And I say that because these are stories we must tell. I'm talking to a group of people, like I said, who get it, who understand that the cause that you fight is a very important one. And it is imperative that we learn how to tell our stories so that we can get the resources that we need to do the work that we do. We really can't be effective if we don't have the resources, support, public opinion behind us. You know, I thought one day, I learned a really valuable lesson on an airplane. They say, put your mask on, your oxygen mask. If there's an emergency, put your mask on before you help anybody else with theirs. And there's a lesson in that, because you really can't be a blessing to others if you don't first have what you need to be a blessing. So it is important that we learn how to tell our stories and tell them effectively. And of course, without people having been in years of school, I went to undergraduate and graduate school to learn how to tell stories, because in theater you're telling a story for a live audience. For a half-hour TV sitcom, you're telling a story through a 4-camera perspective. For a movie, you're telling a story with a single camera perspective. It's such an intricate craft that it does take 4 and 7 years to study it. But what can I leave with you who may have not gone to school for what I went to school for? What is it that you can take from this? And there is one constant, whether you're telling a story for a movie, a TV show, whether you're telling your story, and that's passion. I think that that's the thing that sets us aside from the animals, is that we as human beings, we have passion. I also believe that God has given us all a purpose for being here. But unfortunately, for some of us who don't find ourselves being successful at times, I find that sometimes our passions pull us from our purpose. And we have to work and pray to direct our passions in our purpose. And that's when you have to watch out, because that's when we will meet with success unimagined, when we can line up our purpose with our passion. And so in that, I think that as you learn to tell your story, as long as you go from your heart and you tell it honestly, if you go to writing school, what they're going to tell you is, tell your story honestly. Tell it simply. Don't let it be contrived. That's really what you go to writing school for 4 and 7 years to learn, is to get out of the way of the story, let the story breathe, tell it honestly, and tell it from what you know and from what you're passionate about. An actor goes to school for 4 and 7 years really to learn one thing, that acting is not acting. And every actor goes into an acting class thinking they know. I know what I need to do to prepare for the part. How would I feel if this happened to me? Only to hear a professor say, that's the wrong question. Well, how could that be the wrong question? How would I feel if this happened to me? That's how I prepare for the part. And you'll always learn that the correct question is not, how would you feel if it happened? The question is, what has happened to me? Because you can really only talk about what you know. You can really only come from a place of honesty. And so in these few minutes, the only thing I can say to you is that if you continue to work hard with passion and you tell your stories that you're intimately connected with and passionate about, the story will do itself. Okay? Thank you. Okay.